Your heart rate isn't high enough, long enough to mobilize fatty acids. You have to have your heart rate up to mobilize your fatty acids, which is around 65% of your maximum heart rate. And this is known as the fat oxidation zone. So you've got to get on the incline. You've got to be working at a fast pace. And studies have shown that the maximum fat oxidation, which is MFO, occurs at this intensity level. Okay. So if your heart rate is too low, fat mobilization is minimal, and if it's too high, then your body shifts towards glucose as a primary fuel source, which bypasses fat oxidation. So don't go for a run. Don't go for sprints. That is not going to help you mobilize fatty acids while maintaining muscle as much as steady state. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Kris Gethin Podcast. So today, the title of this podcast is 11 Reasons Why Your Workouts Aren't Giving You a Summer Body or a Shredded Body. You're probably doing everything. You're hitting your cardio. You're in a calorie deficit. You're doing double cardio. You're training to failure. You're hydrating, but you are not losing the body fat, or you've hit a plateau. So I'm going to talk about 11 ways that I believe that could be stopping you. So you can train 6 days a week. You track every macro, weigh every meal, and push through every workout with discipline. You could be doing, quote unquote, everything right and still look the same. Maybe you feel flat or bloated or soft or stuck or watery. But why? Because something under the surface is off. And I'm not talking about willpower or motivation. I'm talking about something that is happening likely on a cellular level. It could be hormonal. It could be your metabolic level. The kind of science most people never hear about on social media, because the mainstream fitness world is obsessed with surface level fixes. But real transformation, that comes from understanding how your body actually adapts and what drives fat loss, muscle gain, and energy output from the inside out. And this is what I like to educate my online clients about, because a lot of the time they're doing everything that they believe is right. However, there's so much deeper down that they do not know about that is going wrong. So in today's episode, I'm breaking down these science-backed reasons as to why your workouts and your diet still aren't giving you that lean, hard, defined, shredded body that you're chasing. So we're going to be talking about why hitting your protein target might still be sabotaging you, how inflammation silently blocks fat loss, why extreme calorie deficits destroy your progress, what your hormones are really doing behind the scenes, and why training hard without progression and without recovery is a recipe for zero results. Okay, so let's dive in. Number one, you're hitting your protein goals, but from trashy kind of sources, so what does that mean? You're hitting your protein target, that matters, but if it's all coming from lower quality or ultra processed or inflamed garbage, then you're going to do more harm than good. The protein quality isn't just about grams. It's about the bioavailability. It's about the amino acid profile and in the right amounts. Digestibility, the presence of inflammatory or estrogenic compounds. Take cheap whey proteins, for example, or blends, or your caseins, your concentrates. Now, many are denatured during the heat processing, and that reduces a lot of the amino acids, including the leucine content, which is the key amino acid that triggers muscle protein synthesis via mTOR. Now, others are filled with artificial sweeteners, loads of cheap gums, seed oils, which contribute to gut permeability and low-grade systemic inflammation. And that inflammation blunts nutrient absorption and interferes with muscle repair and fat oxidation. So this is why I always tell people, go for your grass-fed whey protein isolate without any artificial sweeteners and all that crap. But let's talk numbers. Most active people should aim for, say, 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Now, that may change with my clients, dependent on their goals, dependent on their size, etc. Now, ideally, these need to be spread across like 4 to 6 leucine-rich meals per day, and you'll want to get 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine per meal to trigger that MPS response. And of course, immediately post your workout or before cardio, take your dileucine peptide. That double bonded peptide of leucine will really, really help as well. Now, this is what I recommend. Grass-fed beef. That could be wild-caught game, wild-caught fish, pasture-raised eggs, grass-fed isolates, humane-raised chicken and eggs, etc. But remember that isolate needs to be grass-fed. It needs to have high leucine content and no junk fillers. Plant protein only if it's combined with, or only if it's fermented and combined properly and has digestive enzymes. And I would always add dileucine to that as well. So avoid the cheap blends, avoid the cheap concentrates or the soy protein concentrates. Remember, collagen only shakes are not a complete protein. It's great for your skin, for your nails, for your hair, not for muscle protein synthesis. Okay. Number 2, you're stuck in an extreme calorie deficit for maybe too long and it's backfiring. So let's talk about the 1,200 calorie summer shred mentality. Yeah, it'll work for some weeks, maybe 12 weeks, but then the backlash begins. Your body drops a resting metabolic rate, which is RMR, to conserve energy. Your thyroid downregulates, T3 production drops, your leptin decreases, which is the hormone that tells your brain that you're full. Ghrelin increases, which is your hunger hormone. Then you have testosterone and growth hormone plummeting. And of course, cortisol spikes, especially accentuated if you work hard, if you're under a lot of stress, if you sleep late, which is the end result. You're hungry, you're tired, you're inflamed, you're retaining fat, and you're losing muscle, not fat. And this is what the literature calls adaptive thermogenesis. And once you hit that wall, fat loss stalls hard. Studies show that these effects can persist long after the diet ends, making you more prone to rebound weight gain. And we've seen that time and time again, especially when people would follow like a 12-week plan. And that might be one of my 12-week video trainers. And then they rebound. And that's why when people sign up for my one-on-one coaching, I do not have anyone sign up less than 12 months. 12 months is the minimum. So instead of starving your body, you need to create a small strategic deficit, maybe 15%, 20%. And then this may change. You may titrate up or down as we go, and we cycle calories or refeed days. Prioritize protein to protect lean muscle mass and track your feedback, like your sleep, your libido, your mood, your energy, and performance to know when you may be going a little far. You don't want to be skinny. You want to be lean. That means preserving muscle, not wrecking your endocrine system. Let's look at number 3. Now, you're inflamed, and inflammation kills fat loss. It is the silent killer of aesthetics that no one really talks about. Chronic low-grade inflammation interferes with insulin sensitivity, of course, making it harder to burn fat, thyroid function, which slows down your metabolism, your mitochondrial efficiency. And I always talk about this. Less energy output means less fat oxidation. And then obviously estrogen metabolism, leading to water retention and stubborn body fat, especially around the torso. So what triggers inflammation? Well, number 1, poor gut health, dysbiosis, leaky gut. That's why I have a lot of my clients taking immuno IgG to help with their gut integrity, maybe a probiotic, prebiotic, postbiotic. And then we have ultra processed foods, of course. They're man-made. You have seed oils, you have emulsifiers, you have artificial dyes. Need to stay away from that crap. Of course, poor sleep. You're going to bed too late. You're getting not enough sleep. Your sleep quality's down. Alcohol, that can raise cortisol. Overtraining. Now we're talking about systemic cortisol levels. And then you've got environmental toxins. You've got plastics, you've got mycotoxins, mold spores, air pollutants, EMF, Wi-Fi. Now, how do we lower it? Well, of course, try to protect yourself from EMF and Wi-Fi and too much dirty electricity. Eliminate processed seed oils, which is corn, soy, canola oil. Sleep earlier in the evening. Maintain your circadian hygiene. Sleep 7 to 9 hours a night. Take plenty of EPA, DHA, your omega-3s, curcumin, magnesium especially. Cold exposure and red light therapy really does help, because the red light therapy can help with growth hormone production, testosterone production. Cold exposure also helps with testosterone production, keeps you insulin sensitive. And then you have your gut support, like I said, your immuno IgG, your fermented L-glutamine, your probiotics, of course, your polyphenols as well. And then get your CRP and your homocysteine and fasting insulin levels checked and tested if you're serious. Of course, if you're one of my clients, I will analyze this for you and give you suggestions. But if you're inflamed, you're not going to lose fat. You'll be retaining water, storing visceral fat, and feeling puffy no matter how clean you eat, Let's talk about hormones, number 4. If you're there out of whack and you're ignoring the signs, this can be bad. And those signs: low libido, poor recovery, mood swings or irritability, fatigue despite your good sleep, trouble losing fat even in a deficit and you're doing cardio, brain fog, depression, anxiety, and for women, irregular cycles. But let's break it down. Low testosterone means less muscle, more fat, indirectly. High cortisol, more water retention, more insulin sensitivity, or insulin resistance, low thyroid, slower metabolic rate, estrogen dominant, fat storage, especially around the hips, thighs, midsection chest, low progesterone, poor sleep, and PMS in women. And that's why I tell people to get their labs done. Maybe have a Dutch test, have a comprehensive thyroid panel, testosterone, your SHBG, your estradiol, your DHEA, your cortisol, and of course, insulin. So the biohacks that can help rebalance naturally is, like I said, the cold plunges, red light therapy. I have people on longevity test, which has your ashwagandha in there. Magnesium is great as well. I use the Mag Breakthrough. Phase-based training for women around their cycle, proper intake of iodine for the thyroid, prioritize sleep quality like your life depends on it. So, I make sure that I have these, what's called like U-block blackout shades. Like I cannot see anything in my bedroom. I love these shades. I have a chili pad on my bed. So my side of the bed is cold. My wife's is warm. She's cozy. She likes the heat. And, then I have an air filter. It's called a Jasper air filter in my room to ensure that the air is very, very clean. There's no mold toxins. There's no dander. There's nothing that could trigger off my allergies. So I'm having a really good night's sleep. And I also have a weighted blanket. And I have what's called like a Tranquil Organics mattress that costs a lot of money, but it's the best money I ever spent. I cannot emphasize how important sleep is for fat loss. As weird as it sounds, or recovery, your recovery does dictate your performance. And let's talk about number 5. Maybe you're training, but you're not progressing or recovering. Now, progressive overload, which is muscular adaptation, that means lifting more weight, performing more reps, increasing time under tension, reducing rest periods strategically, of course, and improving your exercise execution. And, you should be logging your books and how you look every week. All my clients, especially on my VIP Plus program, they have to WhatsApp me every day. Their training, their nutrition, how much they ate, what they ate, how much they drank, what time they went to bed, what time they woke up. If they have a sleep tracker, they send me screenshots just to ensure that they know where we're at and I know where they're at. But when you chronically exceed your recovery capacity, then of course your cortisol levels stay high, your HRV tanks, your sleep quality crashes, muscle protein breakdown outpaces the synthesis, and sometimes overtraining can lead to system, fatigue. But what improves the recovery, as I said, it is sleep. Sleep is everything. That dictates your performance. Make sure that you have active rest days with a parasympathetic dominance, meaning, you're doing yoga, you're stretching, you're out in the sun, you're going for a stroll, you're not on your phone, daily mobility work. Of course, your red light, your cold exposure, your sauna. I do all of those things. and I actually do more. I now am inhaling hydrogen while I'm lying on my PEMF mat as well. I love that. I absolutely love those two hacks as well. Of course, I love them all, but those are my new ones, and I just love them. And supplemental support, you're talking your fermented glutamine, your omega-3s, your adaptogens that you have like in longevity test, which is like your Shilajit, your DIM, your ashwagandha, KSM66, of course. But let's move on to number 6. Your heart rate isn't high enough, long enough to mobilize fatty acids. A lot of the time, people say, yeah, I got in 25,000 steps. Yeah, but their heart rate wasn't up. Maybe that was part of their work because they work in a wood furniture warehouse, or they're on a building site, or they train dogs. That doesn't count. You have to have your heart rate up to mobilize your fatty acids, which is around 65% of your maximum heart rate. And this is known as the fat oxidation zone. So you've got to get on the incline. You've got to be working at a fast pace. You can't be on your phone. You've got to be on a Stairmaster, something like that, but it has to be consistent, okay? And studies have shown that the maximum fat oxidation, which is MFO, occurs at this intensity level, okay? So if your heart rate is too low, fat mobilization is minimal, and if it's too high, then your body shifts towards glucose as a primary fuel source, which bypasses fat oxidation. So don't go for a run. Don't go for sprints. That is not going to help you mobilize fatty acids while maintaining muscle as much as steady state. So I like to have my clients use a heart rate monitor just to make sure that they have an understanding. Maybe they only have to wear it for the first month, and then they know. Let's go on to number 7. You're not managing stress because elevated cortisol levels block fat loss. And this is why I always tell my clients, go to bed earlier. If your cortisol levels are up longer for extended amount of times when you should be releasing your melatonin and your serotonin and your oxytocin, for instance, you're not going to do it as efficiently when cortisol levels are still high because you're watching TV, you're exposed to artificial light, which is that flicker, which raises your cortisol levels, okay? And this increases your visceral fat storage, enhancing lipoprotein lipase activity in abdominal fat tissue, okay? It suppresses your thyroid hormone, which is your T4 to active T3, which slows your metabolic rate. And then it induces insulin resistance, which of course reduces the body's ability to shuttle nutrients into the muscle cells and oxidize fat. And it promotes muscle catabolism through gluconeogenesis, leading to a loss of lean mass, which reduces resting energy expenditure. So you have to address the chronic stress or staying up late, because fat loss is a biologically downregulated process, no matter how well you train or eat. So what can you do? Go to bed earlier. Incorporate daily parasympathetic activities such as box breathing, light walking, grounding, earthing, getting in the ice bath, or I use a cryo shower, which is absolutely awesome, by the way, and supplement with the adaptogens that I mentioned. Number 8, you're not utilizing cold thermogenesis to increase your metabolic efficiency. And this isn't just a trend. It's a well-documented metabolic stimulus. And I've been doing this since the mid-90s because that was part of my college course, the contrast therapy and blood shunting. So it releases norepinephrine, which stimulates fat oxidation. It enhances mitochondrial activity and improves insulin sensitivity. What we want to do is brown our fat. The more brown fat that we have, the more mitochondria we have in that fat to be utilizing energy, utilizing stored body fat. And one study published in the New England Journal of Medicine found that adults with higher BAT activity burn more calories when exposed to cold, even without exercise. And another study showed that these norepinephrine levels increased 200 to 300% after repeated cold water immersion. So you want to try to aim for about 2-3 minutes of cold exposure at around 40 degrees Fahrenheit several times a week. Now, I like to do it every day. So I will either be under my cryo shower or in my Morozko ice bath. If you've got room for an ice bath, great. If you do not, because you live in an apartment, you live in a city, then use the cryo shower. Just hit me up if you need a link for that. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's handy. So that really helps. And the other thing that I do, I have a chili pad in my bed and I have it really, really cold. I swear, now, I don't know if there's any studies that support this. I haven't looked, but I swear that I am much leaner. I am maintaining a much leaner physique by sleeping in relative cold. Now, remember, I have a lot of covers on top of me. I have my weighted blanket on top of me. But because I'm cold underneath, I'm still kind of warm on the top, and I'll just turn throughout the night. I just do it naturally. But I swear that is really, really helping. Again, I don't know if there's any studies on that, but it's kind of making sense. Now, maybe your nutrition is on point during the week, but on the weekend, you're drinking a few beers, you're having a little bit of alcohol, and even moderate alcohol intake disrupts multiple pathways essential for fat loss and muscle gain. And here's what the research shows. Alcohol is metabolized first before fat, before carbohydrates, due to its toxicity levels. And during this time, fat oxidation is reduced. It also impairs your REM sleep, which suppresses your growth hormone and testosterone, which is both vital for lean mass building and retention, and of course, fat burning. Alcohol lowers your leptin levels and increases ghrelin, leading to greater hunger and decreased fullness. So this may not happen during the time that you're drinking, but it usually happens after or the day after, and you just eat crap. And of course, it increases cortisol and oxidative stress, creating hormonal profiles that favor fat storage and muscle breakdown, the absolute opposite. And that's not even binge drinking, but even one night of binge drinking can lead to increased calorie intake, disrupted sleep, impaired recovery, and reduced metabolic efficiency for several days after. So what do? Minimize alcohol to no more than one night a week, just maybe one or two drinks, or have nothing at all. Avoid, of course, the sugary mixes and prioritize hydration, protein intake, and recovery if you do choose to drink. Now, I have hacks for my clients. I really don't usually allow them to drink, but let's say if I'm training a client now for a couple of years, they want to have an occasion, they're going on a holiday, then I have hacks in place for that. Maybe they're going to have vodka and they're going to have ElectroShred in it. Maybe they're going to have Cell Shield, which is a glutathione formula, before and after drinking. Maybe they're going to have some Dr. Shade's number 9 bitters during the drink, in between drinks, sorry. And possibly they're going to have things like hydrogen tablets. They're going to have My Vital C, which is a carbon C60, around that time. I'm not saying it's all these things. There could be more. There's usually GD8, which is a dihydroberberine to help with blood sugar stability. And there maybe could be dihydroberberine and Deliverance that help mop up a lot of the aldehyde. I'm just saying, I got those hacks as well. But number 10, you're not training to failure. So you're not stimulating enough muscle growth. So resistance training does promote muscle hypertrophy, primarily through these 3 mechanisms. There'll be muscle tension, metabolic stress, and muscle damage. And training to failure maximizes all of these 3 by recruiting the highest threshold of motor units, okay? But when you stop just a little bit short of failure, especially in like moderate or low volume sessions, you're missing the necessary stimuli to trigger adaptation. And failure also stimulates an anabolic hormone, such as testosterone, such as growth hormone, which support fat oxidation and lean tissue development. And it also keeps you more metabolically active. So train to absolute failure. Like a lot of the times I have my VIP clients send me a WhatsApp because I ask them to have someone or them film the last exercise of all their sets. 99% of those people are convinced they're training to failure. About one of them actually do. So it usually takes me to show them this is what failure is. Number 11, you're not sleeping enough. You're going to bed too late. and sleep controls every major fat loss and muscle building hormones. Unfortunately, it's one of the most overlooked pillars of fat loss and physique transformation when sleep is restricted. So leptin, that hormone of fullness, drops, and ghrelin, the hunger hormone, raises, increasing calorie intake. And then you've got insulin sensitivity that declines up to 30%, making fat storage more likely and impairing glucose tolerance. And of course, cortisol levels remain elevated way into the evening if you stay up night, stay up late, and the following day, and this compounds metabolic stress. And then, of course, your testosterone and your growth hormone secretion is reduced, impairing recovery, impairing fat oxidation, muscle maintenance, but also your longevity and your health span, because testosterone and growth hormone is a direct correlation to living longer and healthier. So, I always say to people, go to bed earlier, get at least 8 to 9 hours uninterrupted sleep. Make sure that you have consistent sleep and wake cycles. I have my clients wear blue light blocking glasses an hour before bed and staying away from screens an hour before bed. That phone has to stay away from the bedroom, even if it's on airplane mode. I don't have any of my clients have caffeine afternoon. I'll only allow them to have paraxanthine from Unmatched, whether that's in their pre-workout or by itself, or in a drink like I'm drinking now, update. But consider sleep aids like magnesium. Magnesium glycinate is a great one. I like Glynac as well from Biostack Labs. Really, really help for certain individuals, of course. But let's bring it full circle. If you've been crushing your workouts and eating clean, but you're still not changing, it's not always your fault, but sometimes it is. Maybe you're just getting poor protein quality, you're eating too little, you're inflamed, hormonal systems, you're not sleeping enough, and you're not training to failure. Okay. So anyway, I don't hand out cookie cutter programs to everybody. I don't do fluff. I do build customized protocols dependent on that person, dependent on their lifestyle, dependent on their data, labs, the experience. I like to address every layer when it comes to their mindset, their lifestyle, their hormones, their training, nutrition, supplementation. And you've probably already got a good work ethic, but apply it with strategy. Okay. If you want to apply for coaching, you can direct message me. You can comment below. You can hit me up on Instagram, and I can help you get that physique that you want. And it isn't just about summer bodies. This is all about building a body that performs all year round. So thank you very much for joining me. If you do have any questions, please put them below. If you like this episode, please subscribe and please share it with others, because that really helps us keep the lights on. Thank you very much. Until next time, my name is Kris Gethin, and we are out.